Job 26, verse 6. And Sister Nan will get verse 7 under that. What does it say there in verse 10?
And he knoweth the way that I take, when he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold.
Tried, come forth as gold. Think about the suffering and the process of pure gold. There are different versions, different verses in the Bible about being tried by fire, separated the impurities, but in the end, tried me, and shall come forth as gold, precious, man's sight, valuable, is another way to look at it. After this trial, I will be good in him, if you will, cleansed to him, and worth everything.
I think it's interesting that Job, despite all the things that he has endured, the punishment, or you say punishment, the injury and the loss and everything, and then on top of that, the insult of his friends and of his family, those in his community. You'll see that, I think, in the next chapter that we look at. But despite all that, he still sees or has the confidence to know that he is righteous. So many people, when they endure the conflict and it's the doubt they fear, they feel, well, are you saved? I hope so. It's not how Job's mentality was. I know that I'll come out as gold. I think that's a lesson that Job can teach the Christian, is that we can know we have salvation and the hope of salvation from God through our righteous life.
That would be the key right there, Lynn. The righteousness of Job. One of the key words in the reading, I think, later on today, talking about in the couple verses of the chapter 3, we talked about a couple weeks ago. Dost thou retain thine integrity? Is the question. Yes, he did. He sinned not. He retained everything that he had. And like you said, it's hard. One of the things about this pandemic that we're going through, the loneliness factor has gotten strangely, I don't know, acceptable. I guess that's a good word. Leaving people alone for days and days at a time, because we need to be careful. When we first started, I jokingly said something to Sandra about, I need a t-shirt for this. I'm going to be the champion of social distancing. I wish I'd never said things like that, because it's wrong if you look at it. Physical distancing, the definitions we were talking about today, spiritual distancing, not so much. We need to pull in closer, pull in tighter, and be they group of righteous people working together, supporting one another, working together, encouraging each other. These are the things that Job didn't have. He didn't have that support system. It was stripped away. And then his comments. Job 26, verses 6 and 7.
Job 26.
6 and 7.
Hell is naked before him, and destruction has no covering. He stretches out the north pole, its place, and up the earth on
Yes, that's it. Thank you. So, everything inside of God is known. Even the talks about the differences of the physical. He formed the earth under the waters and made the habits thereof. Even hell is naked before him. Verse 7, we'll talk about that being the scientific findings support the things of the Bible. Here in chapter 26, verse 7, he stretches out the north over the empty place and painteth the earth on nothing. Go back through world history and some of the ideas that people had then about the earth being supported by atlas being held up, the earth being flat, things that were just allowed later as we grew and moved around. A lot of ideas that man had were completely wrong. And even here it talks about the nothing to the north and hanging the earth on nothing. Something people couldn't understand then, even some today question. God set it all in motion back in the beginning, and still in motion. One of the things that I meant to think about, we forget which one it is, but a couple of satellites and telescopes that have been sent out, NASA, how many years they've been flying, the speed they're covering, and they still haven't found anything. They're still sending back pictures of supernovas that are thousands and thousands and thousands of, I guess, miles is the term they use still. And they're still going. God made it all. I think if it's been a big bang and been a mistake, it'd already come in. That's my personal opinion. We know man didn't do it because everything we've done is falling apart much quicker. Any comments about verse 7? I think there actually may have been a prize awarded for the finding that there's nothing to the north, that there's no stars to the north of the earth. I didn't look that up, so I won't go there. Trina, if you will go ahead and get number 24 for us, it's chapter 27, verse 8. And Sister Edna, if you will get chapter 28, verse 10.
For what is the hope of the hypocrite, though he hath gained when God taketh away his soul?
Hypocrite. Not sure if it's the first use of that word, but we all know what it is. And think about those things. When God taketh away his soul, the truth will come out. And Job knew this. Job was living on the righteous side and taking care of it the way he should be, taking care of his life. And then last week, number 25, chapter 20, verse 10.
He cutteth out rivers among the rocks, and his eyes seeth every precious thing.
Precious thing. Every precious thing. All these verses, as you read through here, all these chapters, Job's talking about the greatness and glory of God, and the, I guess, instability of man, and how different it is. God's way of being much higher than man's way. I think Job several verses pour that out over and over. Chapter 29, the author turns and says, he thinks of his life before all these tragedies and trials came. What were some of his recollections? You just glance through there. Someone that jumped out at me. God preserved me, verse 2. My children were about me, verse 5.
They will walk in darkness with his light.
They will walk in darkness. They will do candle. Walk through the darkness. That's probably one of the key words there. God was with you. The verse 6. Look at that one. I had to do a little homework on that one. Saturday, we talked about that a little bit. When I washed my steps with butter, the rock poured me out rivers of oil. The idea there, I think, was kind of get the agreement that he had put forth a little effort and had been blessed greatly. He had put forth basically he's been blessed by God, both physically and with his wealth and things he had before. And verse 9 was the one I was thinking about earlier, or 8 and 9 rather. The young men saw me and hid themselves, and the aged still rose and stood up, and the princes refrained talking, and laid their hands on their mouth, and nobles held their peace, and their tongues cleaved to the roof of their mouth. When the ear heard me, he was listened to. At that time, what he said was taken for the voice of a wise man, the voice of a man that obviously was successful and watched over by God, by all young and old. I thought that was interesting. And then go into lastly, the last verse, or I guess verse 25, with the last one, starting backwards. I dwelt as a king in the army, the one that comforted the mourners. He was at the peak. Moving on to chapter 30, rather quickly, probably spend the rest of the day there on that. Verse 30 is just the opposite of that. The first verse, but now, they that are younger, that I have been in derision, whose fathers I would have disdained and have set with the dogs of my flock. Yea, hereto, find the strength of their prophet, in whom old age has perished. For want and famine, their solitary, fleeing into the wilderness, the former time desolate and waste, who cut up Mel's rushes, juniper with their meat, and driven forth among men, and tried them as a thief. Just the opposite if you think about it. All the things that he had that were good, now he's turned to ruin. The young, we just talked about before in chapter 29, they're listening to him, they paid attention to him. Men in the gates used to stand up and honor him, and now, if you read verse 10, they hate me, they abhor me, and they don't spare not to spit on my face. Think about that. This is the same reaction that Christ received when he was being falsely accused and tried. Disdain, hatred, physical act. We talked about in the song we sang, the pain and suffering. Look at verse 15, 16, and 17. Terrors are turned upon me that pursue my soul as the wind, and my welfare passeth away as a cloud. And now my soul is poured out upon me, and the days of my affliction have taken hold upon me. My bones are pierced in the night season, and my sins take no rest. Think about the pain and suffering of the physical suffering there. The idea of your bones being pierced through during the night. There's no rest. You can't sleep, obviously. He's covered with boils, head to toe. Later on, we're talking about one of the things that took away with great. Verse 18, very next verse. With great force, of my disease is my garment changed. It bindeth me as the collar of my coat. Great force to remove his, if you think about it, his bindings, his garments that as they, we know people that are, some people that are severely burned due to diseases, when they scrape their skin, it basically peels it back. This was done without anesthesia or whatever, he felt everything. There was no dead, if you will. The terrors that turned upon me, pursuing my soul at night. You think about just having constant dreams, horrors, things that you've seen, things that you're going through. And yet, you still remember God in the end, the rain. Several verses there. Basically, and now, was to stay in the turn. My vows of boy, verse 27, and rested not, the days of my affliction forbidden me. I went mourning without the sun, I stood up and cried for congregation. My brother the dragon, and companion the owls. Again, cut off the world, cut off the people. My skin is lashed on me, my bones are burned with heat. My heart, verse 31, I think this is a parallel to his voice, things have been changed, so much suffering and pain. Heart had been turned in mourning, my voice did make me weep. It sounded as if he was obviously much tormented, trying to talk about how great God was still, but he had physically obviously changed. Any other comments about the verses in chapter 29 and 30 here in Job, about how he thought about all things that were before and then where he was now? He's changed, he lived. Chapter 31, moving on, having Job has a bunch of gifts. Verse 22, what did he wish upon himself if he wronged anyone? Linda, if you don't mind, read that for us. And what does it say there in Job 31:22?
Then let my arm fall from my shoulder blade, and my arm be broken from the bone.
Okay. So, if you look up in different verses, if I have withheld the poor from their desire, if I have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, if I have eaten my portion, myself alone, and the fatherless have not eaten thereof, if I have seen perish for want of clothing, or any poor without covering, if his joint loins are not blessed me, and if not be worn, at least my sheep, if I have not lifted up my hand against the fatherless, when I saw my help in the gate, then let my arm fall on the shoulder. Basically, all these things that he knew were good, and if he had not done these things, this is his wish or desire. There's also a similar verse. I don't know if the author picked it up or not, but verse 40 at the end of chapter 31, verse 37. I will declare unto him the number of my steps as a prince would. I go near to him. If my land cry against me, or let the furrows likewise thereof complain, if I have eaten the fruits whereof, money, or have caused the owners thereof to lose their life, let thistles grow instead of wheat, and crop instead of barley. Basically, the things that he worked for in the ground. If I've done these things, judge me. And if I've done these things, let everything that I put in the ground come up to something else. Thistles. I know a man that if he's driving down the road, if he sees a thistle out in the field, he'll stop the truck and run across the fence with a hoe, chop up the thistle, and throw it in the ditch. He's got a full-time job now because they are everywhere. Used to, you can see them, you can spot them, and identify, hated it. Can you imagine planting wheat? That's all you get. It's a field full of thistles. Interesting idea there to think about. A lot of things we're talking about today, Joe, if we bring them to today's world, how do we think about that? I mean, do we want ourselves to be judged often? Or should we? When we come to worship, we approach God in prayer. Whatever should our opinion be toward Him, toward God, toward our lives, toward the physical things we have, knowing that they too shall pass away.
Job gives his consent to be punished. Job gave his consent to God to be punished. But if I've done all these things, punishment. How many of us people we know we're guilty of wrongdoing, desire, or consent to be punished? I'm deserving of that. Do this to me, Lord. Job shows that he has, do it. I deserve it.
I think that was the word I was thinking of when you said that. Basically, just standing before God in judgment. Are we ready? Basically, God, the righteous judge. What I deserve. It's hard to say. If we move on to chapters 32 through 37 is Yehu's long speech, and he would be his lean, chapters 38, 39. God asked Job very hard questions to think about, after which Job said, Behold, I am vile. What shall I answer thee? Talking with God. I am vile. We can obviously, knowing we're sinful, our nature is sinful, it's hard for us to separate us from that comment. We stand before God. Compared to Christ, we are vile. We are all vile. Sinful. Not even able to compare ourselves to think about it. Verse 4 says, after I will lay my hand upon my mouth. In other words, I will control and not speak, not interrupt. God then answered him with some more difficult answers or questions, rather, in chapters 40 and 41. And to them, Job said, if you're filling the blanks on page 59, I know that thou canst do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from thee. 42, verse 2. In verse 6, he says, I abhor myself, I repent in dust and ashes. God then rebuked the friends of Job. For ye have not spoken to me the thing that is right, as my servant Job hath. Verse 7. If you will, turn over to, I think it's chapter 42, verse 7. Sandra, I think we're ready to start with you. If you will start with verse 9. Yeah, start with verse 7. And through 9. That's good.
And it was so that after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, the Lord said unto God, I will grant his enemy his thee, and against thy two friends, for ye have not spoken to me the thing that is right, as thy servant Job hath. Therefore take unto you now 7 bullocks and 7 rams, go to my servant Job, and offer up to yourselves upon offerings. My servant Job should pray for you, for him will I accept, lest I deal with you at and that you have not spoken to me the thing which is right, like my servant Job. So the wild hares and Canaanite and Bildad, the Shepherite, and Jobar, their name beside his wind, and did work as the Lord commanded him, and the Lord also accepted Job.
Verse 10.
And the Lord turned the captivity of Job, when he prayed for his friends. Also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before.
Several times in the preview, here in the last chapter of Job, the reference is made to what Job said was right, what Job said was true. And then if you remember the things that God told his friends to do, his friends were still the same. His friends were still not helping. And verse 8 tells them to take with you 7 bulls and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for him will I accept. Then and it talks about the end of that verse. It says, "For you must spoke that thing which is right, like my servant Job." My servant Job was used several times there. If you think about that, that's our goal. I want to be called a servant by God. That would be our awesome, I guess, our best goal we could ever have if you truly think about it. Serving God. It's interesting when they do offer the burnt sacrifice for his friends. And as a command, the Lord also accepted Job. And the Lord turned to Job and prayed for his friends. When he prayed for his friends, I don't have time to go. I had a really neat ending for this lesson I'm not going to get to. But I jumped over to James chapter 5, talking about prayer in the New Testament. And read chapter, if you will, James chapter 5, if you get a chance to never read it. We already mentioned about Job's life was rewarded physically. Verses 12 through 16, 2 times what he had before. 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, 1,000 she asses, 7 sons and 3 daughters. Had he forgotten his first sons and daughters? Obviously not. Was he blessed? Yes. Did he see his sons, 4 generations? Yes. But he still had the memory of everything he went through. And he still retained his integrity. With that, I'm completely out of time. Hope I said something or mentioned something today that'll stick with us. If not, I said in James chapter 5, that was a really neat this lesson that I didn't get to. So, thank you again for your reading and your attendance. We'll be there next time for the next lesson. Thank you. First 20 minutes is less than the last 20 minutes.